welcome to Gday Gridiron live on YouTube. Brad and Ian are up to first round welcome to our second home. All you need to know is Gday. This is Gday Gridiron. 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 Just going through the draft as a whole and just talking about different things. So we're here to do that right now. We probably take as long as it really takes to do all that sort of stuff. And
no, we're going to take 4 hours to do this. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why not? Why the hell not?
Absolutely.
Apparently 4 hours is the maximum stream too, Manjot found out today.
Okay.
It just cuts off YouTube 4 hours. So we'll go 3 hours and 55 minutes, Brad.
Yeah. We're kidding, everybody. We're kidding.
Yeah, no, it's just going to be us sitting here playing Jameis Winston drops for about 3 hours of that time, I reckon. Yeah.
I want some crab legs.
That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
That's a W. Yeah, awesome crab legs. Absolutely. Anyway, I hope everyone had a great draft day. In Australia, obviously, it is also Anzac Day, and we commemorate and remember those who fought and passed for this country and really gave ultimate sacrifice, and those that are still with us.
Yeah.
And we have a great day out helping, commemorating that, but also helping our youth, our kids. I spend most of my day helping my kids get through all that stuff as well, and listening to what's going on and learning about things. They actually really learn a lot about it too. So we've done that today. So it's a bit of a weird day for draft day, but it was kind of weird because I couldn't follow along early on, and I sort of have to sit down and go through the text and see what was going on and who got picked where. And I had initial reactions. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, well, what that happened then? This sort of happened here and there. So here's what it is. I don't know. How did you go today, Brad? Did you get to watch or follow along any?
So in terms of the draft, yeah, I did. After a big sleep in for me, which I was not expecting, but I woke up late and I was like, oh my gosh, the draft is getting ready here. So I just jumped on, got ready, and I just echo your thoughts, Ian, about the Anzac and everything that means. And as a foreigner coming into this country, as an immigrant, I come from a very patriotic country background, is the States, and so I appreciate the fact that people show the patriotism here around Anzac Day, and I think it's great. And I tell you what freaked me out though was the jet flyover. I don't know if you got one or not, but when we had one come through Brisbane here, and I was like, what the hell is that? It freaked me out. And no, it's good. I love it. You're right. It is a little bit odd because it's a very commemorative day, somewhat somber. And then yet we've got the celebration of the draft and how cool that is. And so, yeah, it's great to be here talking with you about it. And I'm excited to dive into some of these picks and talk about them. Yeah,
we had two flyovers actually, Brad, because we're very close to a major military airport. In Newcastle. Is basically the Newcastle airport always used to be the RAF base, and still is. So we actually had an F-18 Hornet, which is pretty cool because it's kind of the training aircraft now for the big boys for what they go to. So they use that. So we had that, and there's a local, I guess you could call it historic air club up the road in Scone at Scone Airport. They have a lot of old military planes and the like up there, and we actually got a flyover from a P-51 Mustang, which was bloody cool.
That would be awesome.
That thing coming over you, just a V-12 American bomber, all American muscle coming over the top. It sounds so much better than the Hornet. The Hornet's cool, man. You get that big rush of, awesome, no worries. But listening to that thing coming at you and then going straight over the top, like not far off the tree canopy, is just intense. It's so cool.
Can you imagine a wave of those things? I mean, that would just be, it'd be unreal.
Absolutely.
Unreal.
It would be unreal. It would be absolutely unreal. So, got a couple of people following along. If you're following along, just throw something up in live chat there, and as we do here, chuck your thoughts in. Brad and I will read them out. Or I'll chuck them up on the screen because I can do that as well. We also Manjot's already there. He's already been commenting, so he can't get enough of YouTube.
I'm surprised he's got any gas left in the tank. That guy is a machine.
He is an absolute machine. I don't know whether Manjot sleeps. At this point, he may be related to the Terminator, and he's just running on nuclear fission. So it's just.
Gee whiz! It's just
yeah. All right, Brad. I'm going to chuck up. Handsome fellas. Look at this. Thanks, Isaac.
Yeah, you're the first person that's said that about me, but it must be my Cowboys jersey. Thank you, Isaac.
Absolutely must be. I am going to chuck up a bit of a screen share of ESPN. We're just going to go through and we'll screen share this a bit so you follow along with us. The draft and all the stuff that goes on. This is on ESPN. Obviously, you are going to see all these ridiculous ads that come up on ESPN, but they need to pay money. They're only a $1 billion company, so they need to afford it all somehow.
Yeah.
But we can go through. So the most obvious pick in the draft. There are actually a couple of really obvious picks, Brad. I suppose I should ask before we really jump in to doing all this stuff, Brad. What were your overall feelings about the draft?
Overall, I didn't think it was necessary. I thought it was kind of pretty typical. A couple trades. What do we have? 3 or 4 trades. We'll get into it as we go along. But overall, it was what I would say it was a normal draft. Last year's draft was not normal. Was not typical. When you saw, what offensive for the first 13 picks, you saw 6 quarterbacks like in the first 12 or 13 picks. That was not normal. So people, I think, were kind of expecting that a little bit or hoping for that. And everybody knew going in this is going to be a more traditional conservative draft. And that's what it was. So it was, as somebody who's as old as dirt like me, and watching the draft, this was more akin to what I was used to. It was more of an old school type draft.
Yeah, fair enough then. Old school. It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about old school drafts.
No, absolutely not. No. It just didn't have a bunch of oh my gosh moments and that type of thing.
Fair enough. Yeah, I understand totally what you mean. And I guess that's what it was. And I suppose what we should actually start with, you mentioned drafts there, is pre-draft. We had a pre-draft trade about an hour before the draft kicked off today. The Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans did a draft where everyone was a little bit confused, but it was it seemed to be one team loading up on picks, and everyone assumed it was the Texans that were loading up on picks, which you can see there from what I've shared on screen. The Browns got a 2025 fifth rounder, so a fifth rounder for this year, and a fifth rounder for 2027 so far. We're just starting to be the NBA now, trading future picks. And the Browns gave the Texans 2 sixth rounders for this year and a 7th round pick. And essentially the Texans were loading up, and just I guess everyone's feeling was trying to amass picks and couple them together to move up in the draft later on.
Yeah, it seems obviously they have these trade value charts and they can assign points to them and all that, and all the teams kind of operate off the same chart roughly.
Yep.
It seemed a little peculiar to me, but especially coming before the draft. But and we saw Houston move. I think within the draft itself, they moved and the Browns moved as well. So they've got a master plan for it. It'll be interesting how it all plays out. I think this trade in particular wasn't that, it didn't move the needle for me, but I think you're exactly right. It's okay. They're loading the barrels, see what else they're going to fire at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, let's get into the draft then, Brad. Then we kicked it off with the Tennessee Titans drafting QB Cam Ward first overall. It was pretty much the obvious pick. He had a great grade as a QB. probably the best there. Yeah, and like it's pretty obvious, wasn't it, mate?
Absolutely. I mean, Tennessee needed a quarterback. They got a quarterback, the best quarterback in the draft. I'm a bit partial to Ward just simply because he played for Washington State. And if if any of our listeners have ever been to Pullman, Washington, where Washington State plays, it is a out in the middle. It's in the Palouse, is what we call it, out in the middle of nowhere. And this guy comes from, he goes to the middle of nowhere, plays for Washington State, which is, historically has had some good quarterbacks. And then, goes to Miami, becomes the number one pick. So good on him. But you're right. It's the least kept secret, worst kept secret in the draft. Everybody knew they were going to take him. Whether or not he's worthy of that number one pick, that's well, you have to wait and see. The interesting discussions, I think, were in comparison to previous years. They're saying like he could have been the fifth or sixth best quarterback. So it's interesting that that Tennessee stuck to their guns so much, because apparently they did have a fair amount of calls from people, especially the Giants, trying to get up into that spot. But they really obviously believe in Cam Ward. All the prognosticators were comparing him to Mahomes. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it was overall it is a boring pick, but it was coming.
Yep, absolutely. They need a QB. They need to move on with their lives. They need to build for a future. They got 5 years of Cam Ward now if they want to, possibly more if he does better.
Well, they had 5 years of Will Levis. Look how that's worked out. So
I think he's, you know what? I reckon he'll do better than Will Levis.
I guarantee he's going to do better than Will Levis.
Yeah. So absolutely. It's not going to be hard to do better than Will Levis.
No.
So it is what it is. Cam Ward, good on him.
Speaking of
second pick. Yeah.
It's Travis Hunter.
Second pick, Brad. We had a trade straight up.
We did.
And you know what? Good on the Jags for just going out and saying, we're going to just swing for the fences here and we're going to move up. They had a trade with the Browns for the second pick. They gave up, as you can see here, they gave up their number 5, of course, the fifth, their second round pick, their fourth round pick, and a first round of next year. And they got back this number 2, fourth are a swap essentially this year, and the sixth are a swap. Oh, sorry, they picked up the extra sixth once they gave out the fifth. I actually reckon the Jags got a lot of good value out of this. I don't know. I think the Browns could have got more from the Jags. I'm very surprised with the amount of picks that went back to the Jags for this pick.
Yeah, my hunch is this has to do with the Browns just not being as high on Hunter, or them just being in the situation realizing they have to recoup some of these picks from the debacle of their quarterback trade. So, they're trying to accumulate picks, and they've done a great job. They moved back a few spots. We'll get to their pick a little bit later, but I don't blame them at all for making the move. And congrats to the Jaguars, I mean, they're getting, as Mel Kiper says, they're getting a 2-for-1 deal here. They're getting a guy who's going to play wide receiver, cornerback, and, is he going to play 105 snaps a game? No, absolutely not. He's going to play mainly, it sounds like, wide receiver and then in situational cornerback. So, which is exactly what I would do. So it's a win-win for Hunter. It's a win-win for Jacksonville. I thought it was a great pick, and I applaud the GM for the Jaguars, youngest GM in the league, for making the move. So good on him. It adds a lot of spice to it, and you know that the Jacksonville quarterback is just is ecstatic over this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And Manjot said, both teams win, he reckons. Two first for a guy who plays two positions. And they did. They announced him as a wide receiver cornerback. They announced him as both positions. So
first player, I think, in the modern draft era where they did that.
So that was interesting that they might already have that thought process that they will let him play both positions, where a lot of other, I guess, pundits and stuff were saying that they maybe should think about he should think about specialising in one or the other. So we'll see how that all plays out. Yeah. His pro comps are very interesting. You've got to try and comp him towards two players, and there's not a lot of people that do. Matt Miller from ESPN comped him to Odell Beckham Jr., and I assume that's the wide receiver part. I can see that. I can see that because he's a ball hunter. He goes up and he gets anything and he comes down with it. And we all remember that from OBJ's early days. He was exactly that.
Absolutely. And if you saw the interview that ESPN did with Hunter on the stage after the pick, he said that both the OC and the DC got on the conference call with him once they made the pick. So when players get picked, they usually pass it to the owner and the coach and maybe a positional coach as well to talk to the draft pick. So the fact that both OC and DC got on the call with him says they're planning on using him in both ways. It's just going to be who wins the battle to get him. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. There's going to be so much hype around him. I reckon he's going to be an early primetime game. You're going to see Jacksonville as an early primetime game just so they can highlight Travis Hunter.
Yeah, probably. All right, pick number 3. The Giants end up selecting Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State. So far, the top 3 haven't really been any surprise.
No, right? Not at all. Not at all. This was, again, just the least surprising pick. I'd give it an A pick just because that defensive line is going to be formidable. You've got Kayvon Thibodeau in there. You got Brian Burns in there. That is going to be arguably the best defensive line. Arguably the best defensive line. Philadelphia will have something to say about that. But I think it's a no-brainer for at that spot when so many people are saying he is the best pick in the draft. So yeah, good on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly, the Giants immediately after this pick confirmed that they are going to pick up Kayvon Thibodeau's 5th-year option as well.
Oh, did they?
So,
okay.
So straight away during the draft, as soon as they've made this pick, that's what they've said. So you can tell that they are going all out, at least on one side of the ball, which they absolutely should. They need to go all out in some other places too, but we'll get to that later. 4th pick, Patriots select offensive tackle Will Campbell.
Yeah. Best lineman in the draft. That was pretty much a league-wide consensus. So, and I don't know if anybody heard this guy talk, but oh my goodness, this guy sounded like he had just taken some, if there was a pill for a Southern accent, he took it because he was just, and I am just great to be a part of this organization. The hat says it all. It was the best. It was so good. Go back and listen to his interview. Just the way he spoke just makes me want to go, that's the type of guy you want to coach. Just somebody, he's just very mellow, but just loves football. He just loves to put his hand up people's ass and drive them into the ground. Not that you put your hand up people's ass and drive them into the ground, but
you sure?
He loves to play football. It just, So it was a good pick.
He's going to be amazing at left tackle for them.
And they had to do that.
They got to protect Drake May somehow. And
exactly.
this is one of the best ways. And pairing young guys with your young quarterbacks too, that always has a lot of success. So. All right, then the Browns were back down at 5 after that trade with the Jags, and they ended up with D-tackle Mason Graham, easily the best D-tackle there on the board.
Absolutely.
Easy pick for them. And I can imagine that the Browns are absolutely ecstatic about picking up all those picks from the Texans and then all those picks from the Jags, and then still ending up with this level of player at number 5 in the draft.
Absolutely, because, who are they going to take? So if they stay at 2, who are they going to take? Abdul Carter, probably.
Yeah.
So another defensive lineman. And this way they move back, they get an extra first round pick in addition to some other picks, and they don't drop that much in terms of quality. They get another defensive lineman, the best defensive tackle in the draft, the heart and soul of Michigan's defense. So no, I think as bad as the Deshaun Watson disaster was, this helps rectify. I like to just say rectify because it's close to rectum. Anyway, this helps rectify that pick. So absolutely, I thought it was a great move by Cleveland. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, this is Cleveland playing draft tactics that we haven't really seen from this organization before. Usually they just make mistakes and screw the draft up.
Yeah. What is this? Cleveland doing a competent move? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Unbelievable, isn't it? Next off the board, Brad, one of the most obvious picks as well, Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders. Now, we know you really wanted Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys. You said so in your mock draft. There's no way he was getting that low, Brad. No way.
No. There is no way. I mean, he's a unicorn back. Everybody, his pro comp, in my opinion, I saw a couple other people, his pro comp was Emmitt Smith. Which obviously I'm partial to. So, hands off to the Raiders. Apparently, there were some teams trying to trade up to get to him. So I don't blame him for taking this pick at all. Pete Carroll loves the run game. They've been trying to do the run game for a long time. They tried to focus on it. They had Marshawn Lynch. They drafted Rashard Penny. Penny didn't work out. Lynch obviously did. So it's just, Pete Carroll knows how important the run game is. Gentry is one of one. So, I would not be surprised if I'll be in diapers talking about Gentry being a Hall of Famer. He is the LaDainian Tomlinson, the Emmitt Smith, that kind of running back. So good on him. I think he's going to be a stud in the NFL.
It's interesting that you mentioned all those names, yet the comp that ESPN has put to him is Alvin Kamara. Now, I get it. Right? Alvin Kamara is an absolute weapon, and he was in his younger days. But, geez, Alvin Kamara's had a lot of trouble staying on a field consecutively years. But
I didn't realize the thing that surprised me is how short Gentry is. He's only 5'9", so that surprised me.
Only 95 kilos he's weighing in at too. Under 100 kilos.
Okay. Well,
smaller than me, Brad. Smaller than me. Absolute unicorn. Well done, Raiders. Now let's see if they paint the field. How intimidating would a black field be? All right. The Jets at 7 picked Aman Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri.
Yeah.
Membu, I think, this guy, he's incredibly quick. He's incredibly strong. He's a big boy. He ran 4.9140 at 332 pounds. It's what the hell? This guy is just, I don't know how you can run that fast and be that big, but this guy seemed to be able to do it. The Jets getting an offensive weapon at tackle is pretty good. Great, for their pass block, their rush block as well.
Again, it goes. I feel like this is kind of in that vein of what Cleveland did. It's crazy that they made a kind of conservative, logical pick. So they go to protect the quarterback. They go to build the line. Whereas, we're used to the Jets trying to do, the flash, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, all that crap. And they're building a line. Hopefully, maybe Johnson, the owner, has come to his senses. I doubt it. Once an idiot, always an idiot. But you think about it, because 4 of the Jets' projected offensive linemen have been first or second round picks since 2021. 4 of their 5 offensive linemen have been first or second round picks since 2021. So they are putting a lot of money and energy and effort and resources into that. Let's hope they can get it. They're, obviously last year they picked another offensive tackle, so they're going to have the bookends here, 2 first-round draft picks. So if their quarterback can't get it done this year, then it might say that it's Justin Fields is not an NFL quarterback. We'll see.
We'll see, Brad.
Yeah.
We never know. I don't know whether I like Justin Fields. Is he an NFL quarterback? I would say yes. What level of NFL quarterback sort of remains to be seen. Yes, you could really. It'd be weird to say that he's one of those game managers because those guys are typically passers, and that's not Fields' preferred mode, I guess. But it'd be interesting to find out and go from there. Right, Brad. Next up is
Teddy McMillan.
Tatora McMillan to the Panthers, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. This, I was surprised at this one. This was probably my first decent surprise. I thought he was going to go later. I thought Carolina was going to go defense. The guy doesn't have incredible separation. He's a great ball hawk. So in terms of, it's not 50-50 balls with him. It's, 30-70 or 70-30 balls with him. So I was a little bit surprised with that. That just, I think it goes to show that they really want to put as many weapons around Bryce Young as possible. So Carolina had needs up the wazoo. So they needed everything. So, but obviously, they're going to say, we're going to build this offense up. They needed a number 1 wide receiver. That was obvious. And they've got him. To me, I don't know what ESPN says, but to me, he's another Drake London. That's who he reminds me of. So just a big body who can come down, get the ball. And I think he's going to be a real volume catcher. Just so that my first fantasy reference here, if you're looking for a rookie wide receiver, this is the guy I would get because I think they're going to feed him galore.
Michael Thomas is the ESPN comp for Ted McMillan.
Yeah.
Curious, but I think that's not far off. It's not a bad guy to be comped to either.
No. Thomas at his peak was the best in the NFL. So, we'll see if he can live up to that and stay healthy. That would be legit.
Do need to point out right here at this point, Brad. In my mock draft, I had Ted McMillan, and so did.
Did you?
So did Isaac.
Well, look at you
as I said on our stream at Draftapalooza, I really thought just with the 1 year for name escapes me right now, but I thought that they're really just trying to for Adam Thielen, the 1 year for Adam Thielen, that they're just going to try and future-proof that down the line just into next year and just go from there. So, and Brad, just for you right now, if listeners go to the our merch store, which you can find at Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network, you will find a Titty Mac shirt available right now at our Linktree on the merch store. Head on over there. There are heaps of other designs other than Titty Mac, but you can definitely get yourself a Carolina Titty Mac shirt. You can see here we've got some Flaccid Flacco, some T. Higgins. There's a bit of Goffense. There's a Conk. There's a whole bunch of Gday Gridiron stuff as well. So head on over, check out all of these amazing designs at our merch store, and pick yourself up some pretty cool merch. You also find on that Linktree, if you go there, you'll find links to the podcast and everything else we do. Aussie NFL Fantasy Guys, Manjot's Pastry Press NFL on Instagram, of course. So you'll find all that sort of stuff. And yes, Manjot, Brad's favourite player, got to be Tit McMillan now. Titty Mac is Brad's dude. It's Brad's boy.
I don't know about that, but it did surprise me. Congratulations to you for getting that pick, and Isaac. So
I didn't get the pick. I picked it, but I didn't get that pick. I don't have the millions to be able to get that pick.
Yeah.
All right, number 10, the Saints. Everyone, we thought they were going to go all kinds of places. Everyone as soon as Derek Carr went down, everyone said, it's got to be Sanders. It's got to be Shedeur Sanders. Was it Shedeur Sanders, Brad?
It was not an emphatic no. So, and if you listen to the ESPN broadcast, Mel Kiper was pretty livid about this. Instead, they go very conservative with Kelvin Banks Jr., the guard out of the guard slash tackle out of Texas. So he was a stud, no doubt about it. The thing that surprised me about this pick is the fact that that New Orleans has now thrown their first round picks in 2020, 2022, 2024, and 2025 all at offensive linemen.
Yes.
So that is amazing to me.
Overreacting.
It's ridiculous that that's the way they've gone. It's so weird that that's how they pick. But that is how they pick.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So you got to wonder what Kelvin Moore, their new coach, he knows how effective an offensive line can be, and when you have a dominant line, O-line, of course he's a former quarterback, and when you have a dominant O-line, that it just completely changes the game. But it was just, to me, it was just a little bit too safe. I thought it was, when you needed a quarterback, you needed somebody else, and Shedeur would have been a good fit. Now, I'm not a huge Shedeur fan, but obviously you think they probably know something that we don't know. I just think Banks wasn't the pick. You put too many resources for the offensive line. You need to spread the love around.
Yeah, spreading. Oh, thanks for the great segue there, Brad. Speaking of spreading the love around, number 10 to round out the 10, the Chicago Bears picked Colston Loveland, tight end, out of Michigan. It's a strange reach to have Loveland go in the 10 as the first tight end off the board. But here we are. He's a great route runner. He can catch, he can pass. So I'm guessing that they weren't hugely, or they're more in love with that than the blocking ability of other tight ends. Mm-hmm. So here we are, Colston Loveland.
Yeah, new coach Ben Johnson. Who did he have as his stud wide receiver or stud tight end, especially in his rookie year? Laporta. Yeah. Who does Loveland remind him of? Laporta.
Guess who Matt Miller's pro comp is? Sam Laporta.
Is it Laporta?
Yeah, right there on screen, Brad. You can see Sam Laporta, pro comp.
Okay, yeah, excellent. So yeah, and again, fantasy reference. If you need a tight end, this is the dude you want because I think he is just going to be pumped full of footballs. So it's. I was surprised.
Well, he goes way up there in tight end ranks. Now, basically, on fantasy, especially for me. You know how I love tight ends in fantasy. He goes way up there in the list. Up sort of I think almost as high as we all had Brock Bowers last season. And you could see that out of this guy as well. Similar.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing that I've heard and what I've read since the draft is that Loveland's the better receiver. Warren was the better blocker, the other tight end that they're comparing him to.
Yep.
So the fact that they're getting the better receiver which is kind of what Chicago needs. So
yep,
it makes sense to me.
All right, that's the 10, Brad. So let's quickly run through. How many do you want to run through at a time? We go next.
Well, we
go the next 10. We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll run through the next 10 and then we can give some thoughts. San Francisco 49ers picked Mikael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia. Well done. Nick picked that to a T, the fact that the 49ers just go straight to the defensive end. Your Cowboys got Tyler Booker, offensive guard. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle to the Dolphins. Tyler Warren went to the Colts, as everyone suspected, tight end out of Penn State. Jalen Walker, the linebacker out of Georgia, to the Falcons. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, defensive tackle to the Cardinals. Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M edge rusher to the Bengals. Let's stop there. what about any of those guys, Brad? How any big thoughts on some of those guys?
Well, as a Cowboys fan, I liked the Booker pick. I did personally. You've got Zach Martin retiring, so you need a replacement at offensive guard. Booker is by far the best guard. New coach Schottenheimer really is a little bit of old school, thanks to his dad Marty, which I loved. Marty Schottenheimer. He was probably my favorite coach next to Tom Landry. It's a travesty that guy didn't win a Super Bowl. But anyway, I just am. I love the fact that they're gonna just run over people. And if you want a guy that's gonna bring a little bit of attitude and a lot of girth, everybody likes the girth. Then you're gonna Tyler Booker is the one for you. So the fact that even the guys on ESPN were saying he could be comparable to Zach Martin, not in the sense of athleticism and that type of thing, but in terms of just the importance of the position and potential all-pro type back, or all-pro type guard. So I really liked the Booker pickup. I thought that was
cool.
was a good pick.
I thought some of the others were pretty on point with what a lot of these teams needed in terms of their need. There's no real surprises there in terms of positional.
No,
you could argue the player a little bit, but there's no real surprises.
The Tyler Warren pick at Indianapolis. Indianapolis was just pooping their pants when that pick
when the Bears took Loveland and not Warren, they would have just been going, absolutely, hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's exactly what they needed, in my opinion. I mean, he's such a good fit. He's a really good blocker, which, when you got to go heavy personnel, when you got to go max protect, that type of thing, it's what Richardson needs. And then yet he can catch the ball. He can be a great safety outlet, a great safety valve on the blitz, that type of thing. So I love the pick, and I think it's to me, that is the best fit in the entire draft is Tyler Warren to the Colts.
Absolutely. That's big. All right, the next few, 18, Gray Zabel. I kept getting that wrong on Draftapalooza. Gray Zabel. Out of North Dakota State, the guard went to the Seahawks. The Bucks picked up Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio, which I thought was interesting. So we'll touch on that in a second. Jahdae Barron, cornerback to the Broncos. The Steelers picked up Derek Harmon, defensive tackle. I'm Orion Hampton, running back, went to the Chargers. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, went to the Green Bay Packers. And then Donovan Jackson, offensive guard, to the Vikings. Brad, some interesting ones in that lot, though.
Yeah, there were. I really loved the Seahawks pick. I love Gray Zabel. I mean, my family originally from North Dakota, so I'm a little bit biased towards North Dakota, especially because they're so dominant in the Division II football. And this guy, he's somebody who turned down apparently just really lucrative nil offers when he was at North Dakota State. He could have transferred, got paid a lot more money, but he stayed there, decided to play with his brother, his younger brother. And the Seahawks, it's a great fit in the sense of, you're bringing in a new quarterback, Sam Darnold, and Darnold struggles under pressure. So what do? You shore up your guards so that you can give Darnold a little bit more time. And Seattle been trying to shore up that offensive line for quite a little bit. So I think this is a great pick, great fit. It's not flashy, but it's exactly what they needed.
I think for me the Emeka Egbuka pick to the Bucks is an interesting one. Them going wide receiver, when obviously they've got Evans and Godwin, and of course they've got Jalen McMillan as well. That's definitely an interesting pick. He instantly becomes sort of the third wide receiver there, so he pushes ahead. But I wouldn't have thought that they would have gone wide receiver, but I can sort of see the logic considering what happened last season with both Evans and Godwin. especially with Godwin being out for the majority of the season. So a little bit of future proofing, it would seem, at the Bucks.
Well, future proofing for the offense, not future proofing for the team.
Yes.
They had so many glaring needs on defense, all three levels. Linebacker, secondary. Their defense just needed so much. This pick, I was probably the least impressed. I thought it was the biggest reach, the most disappointing of all the picks. And I love
the most disappointing, Brad. That's
arguably for me, in the sense of it just didn't fit with the team's needs. And I love Baker Mayfield. I love putting stuff around him, but to reach for a player in a position you don't need as much as so many other positions, to me, is just a travesty. So it makes Baker and it makes the offense exciting, but in terms of how it helps the team, no, I didn't like it.
And then the Steelers, everyone thought they were going QB for sure.
Yes.
We all thought there was going to be Sanders. And when he was dropping, everyone thought Sanders, and they stayed on the clock for so long, Brad. Entire length of time, they just basically almost ran out the clock and eventually picked the DT. It just seems like they didn't have the confidence in Sanders, like they really thought to really go and grab him with the 5-year option.
Yeah.
So, Amarian Hampton, the running back for the Chargers, was another very interesting pick. They also stayed on the clock down to the absolute wire. We were live with Manjot and Nick, and we all thought that they might have missed the pick and they were going to do a Vikings and timeout, but they must have got it in with like a second or two to spare. It's just the rest of the world, in terms of the timers we were all watching, timed out. But yeah, that went so far down. A running back, though, a really good running back for Harbaugh. That's such a great pick for him.
I love that pick. I absolutely love the pick. To pair him with Najee Harris, I think is just absolutely fantastic. And it's, you can debate, do you take running backs in the first round or not? Yeah, I get that. But the Chargers needed a running game, especially in their Greg Roman offense, and they got one. They got a stud. So I think this guy is going to be really, really good. The offense is going to help Herbert. This run game is going to help Herbert so much. So no, I love this pick, and I love the next pick after it.
Yeah, Matthew Golden to the Packers. Wide receiver, great pick. Godwin is a great wide receiver. We talked about him a lot on the draft show, Draftapalooza, and that's a great pickup for the Packers that he drops that far. Everyone thought that he was going to end up at the Broncos. He seemed like more of a Sean Payton kind of guy, but they didn't go that way. So the Packers get a little bit of a bargain there. Donovan Jackson, the other O-lineman at Ohio State, goes to the Vikings. I don't hate that we went O-line at all. Love that we went guard. We're obviously all the eggs are in the JJ McCarthy basket, and we've gone, we need to protect this kid going forward. Here's a guard for 4 to 5 years that is incredibly capable, incredibly big guy. I know that Nick was a bit confused, maybe that it wasn't Simpson, so it wasn't the left side. But I don't hate the guard choice either, though.
No, to me it seemed illogical. I thought they were going to go defense. That's who I had them in my mock. I thought they were going to go safety, but still, because the number one safety was on the board. But you're right. I think, in my opinion, you got to build from the offensive line, and he was the best available offensive lineman. So I don't hate it.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it at all. Okay, righto. Well, we'll go down the next couple, Brad, but there is 100% a trade here. So we can switch back over this one. The Giants traded up with the Texans. The Giants end up getting the number 25 pick, and the Texans ended up with a second rounder, a third rounder, and a third rounder for 2026. And of course, as you can all see there, the Giants went up and selected Jackson Dart, QB out of Ole Miss.
I don't know about you, but I love this pick. I love, and what I love about it is the fact that they got their stud defensive lineman.
Yep.
They held there, and then yet they trade back up and get what sounds like the quarterback they were high on in the first place. So they're getting that fifth year because they're, in case our listeners don't know, if you get drafted in the first round, you get essentially an extra year on your contract. So it's a 5-year guarantee for the team that drafts you in the first round. So getting this quarterback in the first round means the Giants get him a little bit longer, and the fact that he's behind Wilson and Winston, there's no pressure for that guy to start right away. He could sit for 2 years and it'd be just fine. So, you can see another Love type situation here with this. I love it. I absolutely, again, I said earlier about my favorite picks in the draft. This would probably be my second favorite in the draft, was them just coming back up and making this pick.
Yeah, cool. I know. Well, we moved to pick 26, and there was another trade, Brad. The Falcons traded with the Rams. Falcons ended up with the 26th pick and a third rounder. The Rams got back a second, a seventh, and a 2026 first rounder. Oh, getting a first rounder back is unbelievable for this level of pick at 26. And then the Falcons ended up picking the edge rusher James Pierce Jr., who was still amazingly on the board at that point. So you can see why they came up and got him, which is a bit of a weird thing.
I think what bothers me about this trade is how much they gave up to give up another first rounder to move back up into the here. I get the whole idea of, okay, like what I just said, you want a first round pick for a quarterback so you get that extra year. I don't think that's nearly as critical for any other position, really, especially a defensive lineman. So now they'd have 2 defensive linemen in the first round. And yeah, Pierce is good, but I just, for what you gave up, and I don't see it. So I was not enamored.
After last year's reach at QB, it seems like a really weird reach.
The Falcons remind me a little bit of kind of like the Raiders of the 90s and the 2000s. Just like they're on their own planet, just doing stuff where you just kind of scratch your head and go, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next few. 27, Ravens got Malachi Starks, the safety. Lions got Talik Williams, the D tackle. Commanders got Josh Connolly Jr., the offensive tackle. Bills got Maxwell Hairston, the quarterback.
The Ravens pick with Starks, I just want to toot my own horn. I picked that one, I predicted that one. So, and I think it's a good pick too. I just, he was a stud safety, and I think it was a need for the Ravens. So I like that. I like the Lions pick as well. Williams at tackle. I think in terms of best available at a position of need. So I get that. I always love Conley for the Ducks going to Washington. Go Ducks. So it was, to me, those 3 were just easy picks, and I liked them all.
And we had 2 trades, Brad. The Eagles moved up ahead of the Chiefs. They traded with the Chiefs to swap picks. And we can see here, basically, the Eagles went ahead to 31 and picked Jahad Campbell, linebacker. Grabbed him early while he was still there. And amazing, he fell so far. There were some concerns about his legs and a bit of an injury he had. And then the Chiefs ended up at 32, picked offensive tackle Josh Simmons, who also dropped way down, the other O-lineman. They ended up getting a 5th round pick for that privilege with the Eagles.
Yeah, and again, when you're getting at this back end of the draft, it's the thing is, so many people think, oh, he's a first round pick, whatever. But just because you're picking in the first round doesn't mean the guy is first round worthy. So, and I think that's the case with a lot of these guys. So,
yep.
there's no guarantee that these guys are going to work out. I like what KC did. I like what the Eagles did. I think it's good fits for them, but you just never know.
I'm surprised by the Eagles here that they maybe thought like the Chiefs would end up picking the linebacker.
Yeah.
Like going at linebacker. They've got a few half decent linebackers and some guys there, but I just wouldn't have thought that you should be that worried. As you said about coming up here, because there would have been other linebackers available or other defensive guys that would be just as good. Yeah. Anyway, Chiefs went offensive tackle, which is what everyone thought that they would go with O-line.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't blame them for doing it. And, when you're perennially stuck at the bottom of the draft, like the Chiefs have been, to be able to do what they've done and to be as creative, it's just, it blows me away. And I'm really, really impressed overall with how they've sustained their success, given how low they draft.
Brad, winners and losers. Have you got any winners or losers out of this in terms of teams?
I like the Giants. I hate saying that because they're an NFC East team. And I feel like the NFC East is just
I'm going to clip that at some point too, by the way.
I feel like the NFC East has just gotten better. So I really like what the Giants did. I love the fit of Golden to Green Bay. I think that's a great fit. So, and believe it or not, I'm probably at least the first part of the second round. I'm just as excited for that, just because I cannot wait to see where Shadero goes. I think he's going to go to Cleveland at 33, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like that bottom end of the draft too. I really like that Golden pick. That's a good win there for the Packers for me. And I hate saying that because they're North. The Giants, I think, have done really well. I think the Giants have used this logically. Obviously, there's a little bit better thought process there. As I said earlier, I really love the Jags going and getting Travis Hunter. They were confident in it. They just went for it. Let's just go. You're up there. And realistically, you build your team hoping that you're never going to be at the top of the draft ever again. So that's a great pick for me. That was a great move for them. And then, the boys, some of the boys, obviously, in terms of Nick and Isaac, sent through some thoughts as well. And I agree with them on this. Just the Eagles. Just does it ever stop with the Eagles absolutely blitzing the draft, getting Jahad Campbell, a top 10 pick, at pick 31 is just unbelievable.
It's just it pisses me off, to be frank. So it's like, how does this keep happening? So
Nick's winners of the first round: Browns, Falcons, Eagles. So obviously, the Browns and the Falcons. I don't know how the Falcons. I'm confused by him. I would love to have Nick on there with us today, but apparently South Australia doesn't need power, so he's got no power at the moment.
He had to be drunk by that point, because there's no way. There's no way. Must be.
Isaac, though, he absolutely loved Mason Graham to the Browns, Tat McMillan to the Panthers. We talked about that. Gday Barron to the Broncos. He says the Broncos defense is going to be so strong. Loves the move they made the offseason, and then they get better in this draft. And then obviously I talked about Jahad Campbell to the Eagles. We're all just so stunned at that, and I think the world is just the fact that they can keep on doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're getting a stud. A guy coming out of Alabama. He's going to be pro ready. He's a great blitzer. I hate the fact that they got him.
Absolutely hate it, mate. Absolutely hate it. All right, cool. Thanks everyone for joining us. It's been great to go live. It's about an hour of Brad and I's thoughts on the first round of the draft. You'll get more from us next week, where we'll probably review everything that's happened across all 7 rounds, hopefully with one or two of the other boys. Manjot is going to be back tomorrow to do the second and third round of the drafts live, so make sure you stick around right here on this YouTube channel, Pastry Press NFL, to check that out and give him your thoughts as he's going along. You can chat with him on stream and give him your thoughts as they make picks. And he's hoping the Vikings figure out how to trade in the second and third rounds. Otherwise, I'm not even going to have to pay that much attention to the draft.
Love it. Yeah.
All right.
It's going to be exciting.
thanks, Brad. Thanks for joining me, and thanks everyone else for joining us. Absolutely, we loved it, and we will see you later.